Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 9, brought to you by ScoreboardFundraising.com. If you have any needs for raising money for your program or anybody else, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, anything like that in the high school level, I encourage you to get with ScoreboardFundraising.com. Mike James in Georgia, 770-680-3424. They're our title sponsor. We're so glad to be on board with them for the next 4 seasons. And today I'm super excited because I'm joined by an old friend of mine, heavy emphasis on the old. We've known each other for over 30 years. He's the offensive coordinator at Jefferson County, Coach Marleau Blount. Thanks for being on with me.
Thank you for having me, Chris. Good to see you.
Yeah, I got to see Marleau this past, and one of the kids came up and said, "Hey, there's this big coach that wants to talk to." And I'm like, wonder who that could be, and it was you, and it was so good to see you, and, uh, those that don't know, I know most of his story, where he grew up, but I'm gonna let him tell it because he has a very unique path and a very unique story, and as we both get close to the end now, I was so excited to see you at that game and talk you into coming and do this with us. So tell everybody, coach, where'd you grow up and go to school?
Oh man, I grew up in Warren County, one red light, single A Warren County. Graduated in '87. Took the long route to coaching. I wish I had a gotten into it straight out of high school, but I spent a little time in the retail industry and trying to get myself on television. Ended up tearing my knee up. And that's when I went back and finished school. And, Chris, you and I went to Augusta State together. And that's where we met with a bunch of other guys who were teaching, coaching. Graduated in '87, played ball under Coach Larry Freeman. Went to Albany State for a minute. And I finished up at Augusta State. I was fortunate to spend a year with Coach Eric Parker and Lemuel Lackey down at Laney when they were getting that program started. So, I learned so much from Coach Park and Coach Lackey. I guess it was trial by fire because they were just getting that program back up to prominence. But as soon as I spent that little time, position came open in my hometown in Warrenton. That was where I wanted to be. That was the call, and I came back to Warrenton. Came back to Warrenton.
Yeah, we talked on the phone the other day, and because I was having technical difficulties, the internet got knocked out. We were supposed to record that day, and then
Right.
I was having a stroke, and me and Marlo got to talking. I said, you could have gone anywhere. You could have gone to Burke County, Thompson, Atlanta, anywhere. You were the young, black leader, great. I mean, you could have done anything you wanted to do, and you shared something with me. I want you to share with everybody else about your dream job.
Well, that Warrenton job was my dream job because I was one of them. I was one of them. I grew up from Little League. Um, some of the most interesting people I've ever met were my Little League coaches. I was fortunate enough to have played with some guys. I mean, you look on TV and you see all these athletes doing certain things and all these athletes in positions. I'm like, I grew up with guys that could do that. I grew up with guys who should have had an opportunity to go somewhere and display those talents. Just didn't have the tools. Not to say that the coaches and teachers who taught me and who coached me weren't worthy of those positions, but it was like we needed a little bit more.
Well,
And
you told
and
me you said you never dreamed about coaching at Georgia
no,
or for Kirby Smart. Your
no,
dream was to be the head football coach at Warren
in Warren
County, and
County.
eventually you were.
Right, right. And I was fortunate enough to get in with Coach Freeman and come up through that middle school ranks and Antonio Hill took over and Coach Charles Rutland, who's a legend, in the state, one of those old school guys. And then I got to be coordinator under Lee Hutto. So I learned a lot from Lee. He's one of Luther Welch's prodigies, and he brought a mentality, knowing what we needed in Warrenton. If Warren County had have had a weight training program, just like the regular schools, Warren County would have a trophy case full of state region championships in all sports. We literally had no in 1987, we were number one in the state. Us and Lincoln County kept bouncing back and forth, AJC and Augusta Chronicle. number one, number two in the state. Rome was in there somewhere, East or West Rome back in those days. That was the only deciding factor. And the only reason that we were good in 87 is as a group, we started lifting. We started lifting and we actually could compete with your Rennes and your Louisvilles, and we could go toe to toe with Lincoln. I think they beat us 7-0, 8-9-0, 14-7. Because back then it wasn't a top four. It was, we had a region championship game and only the region champion went. Because if we had a gone, we had to have the same format today. We'd have met them in the state championship that year. But ever since then, even when I got to Albany State and started to lift weights, I went from 6 foot, 165 pounds. I came back for Christmas 205. And, I'm like, I could have had this. I mean, my friends could have had this. Tony Hill played at UT Chattanooga and got 3 Super Bowl rings with the Cowboys. And, he was 6'8", 290. Some more friends of mine went off to school and came back and it was different. I'm like, this is what Warren County needs. And all those folks that graduated before me came back and went military and said, if we had this, we'd have had a regular strength training program or conditioning program like Thompson or Burke County or Rome or Lincoln. We could have been competitive. So that was going to be my ace in the hole. That was going to be my big joker coming back to Warren County. We're going to eat these weights and we're going to be competitive along with this pedigree that we got running through this county. And when
Wow.
the opportunity came for me to come, man, I hit the lottery.
So how long were you there before you became the head coach?
Before I came the head coach, 10 years.
10
I
years.
think I
So
was there
still
was
had to
10
pay your
years.
dues even though you was a homeboy,
Right,
played on that field,
right. Yeah, yes.
everything.
Still had to pay some dues. Was eager to get in there. Was eager to get in that position, and I felt like coming straight out of Augusta State, straight out of Delaney, my tenure at Laney, I was ready, but I quickly found out that it was a lot that I had to learn.
Well, one thing that we had was that bunch we had at Augusta State, you had Jay Matthews, he was going to Lakeside, so that was off the table for me because we were from the same school, so I couldn't go there. You were going to Warrenton, we
Right.
thought eventually, and you did. Chris Kelly is going to Glasgow
Going
because he is Glasgow County.
He is king.
Yeah, he's him. We had some guys from Thompson, they were going to Thompson. I mean,
Right.
everybody I ended up at Aquinas,
Right.
and I'm not Catholic, I didn't know what was going on half the time with that stuff over there, but I ended up getting in baseball over there to start off with. So we're all kinda placed, and
Right.
then when we finally graduate, I knew that if I was gonna learn about football in Georgia, I needed to go to South Georgia
Right.
because Columbia County was not gonna be it. I didn't have any in at a Thompson or a Burke or any of those places.
Yeah.
I left, and everybody else stayed pretty local.
Stayed pretty local. Stayed pretty local. Yeah, I would have, I guess my travels since I left Warren County, I ran into a bunch of people, along this journey. And it's still something in me, Chris. I'm at Jefferson County right now, but I would love to end my career there. Just because it's coming full circle, I'm not going to say I would have done Warren County a disservice because just like you say, you go off and you learn stuff and you meet people, then you bring it back. No coach comes out of the womb knowing everything. We steal from different places. We steal from our time and our experiences. We steal from getting beat 50-0, and it's all a journey. It's all a journey. And but like we were talking the other night, I never would have left Warrenton. Never would, because that was the dream. That was a dream, and I had the formula for that particular time. The coaches who are there now, they brought, when I first got there, Tony Hill got there and he preached weight room. But our particular administration, just give the community something to do on Friday night. Just go through the motions, and no, we want to win. Tony went to Valdosta State and he brought back a bunch of stuff. When Lee Hutto got hired, one of his big priorities, one of his big things coming in, we not gonna win if we don't have weight. All of a sudden, truck pulls up, big trailer full of weights. Okay, fine. Long as we get them in here, that's fine. And we started to turn the corner. We started to be, well, I think Lee's first year, if I'm not mistaken, we came out of the gate 0-4, and we ended up losing the clinch in the third round. The year after that, we were very competitive. Had some great players who benefited from those programs, and the folks who were followed Coach Hutto kind of kept it going. Coach Simpson, Coach Freeman, who was there, myself, they both came after me, but I just sympathize with all those all those players, all those great players that were before me, that I played with, that came subsequently after me, that just didn't get that full program experience from a place that just has a long lineage of great athletes. That Thompson, Warrenton, Hancock area, man, Chris,
Well, and
there
that
are some
segues into my next thing is after Warren County, and this is special to me. You go and get the head coaching job at Hancock Central eventually, which is one of the biggest rivals of Warren
rivalry,
County, and so you play in the rivalry, and you get to coach both sides of it as
both
a head
sides.
coach. So how did that happen? Like, how did you end up at Hancock?
That was, and I knew you was gonna ask me. And I even talked with some folks. I'm gonna be on Suncast. I know he's gonna ask me about the Warrenton Hancock thing. It's been about 11 years since that incident happened, but there was an incident that happened in Warrenton. Some miscommunication, some I don't wanna, if you've been in this business long enough, you know there's some politics, that comes along with the positions, that comes along with where you at or where you're trying to go. I think I got caught up in some politics, and I end up having to leave Warren County. And the horrible thing about that situation is the way that it was done. I got pulled in the administrator's office at 2:30 of the day of the first preseason game of the season, and was told that there was something and that we needed to fix it. And next thing you know, I'm having to resign my position. That was a trying time. But that Monday morning, as the word just spread like fire on dry grass. It was just amazing. I didn't know, but that following Monday, I had like three coaches, three schools calling, like, we hear that you're not going to be coaching in Warrenton. Would you like to come here? And Hancock was the closest to home, because
Right.
literally the season had just started. If I had have done my due diligence, if I had have been this old Marlowe, I would have known how to handle that situation, and I would have never left. I would have went in another direction. I would have been a little more contesting against it at that time. I didn't want to cause any trouble, and I got caught up in a web of deception. I'm gonna say that web of deception, and I just said, well, I'm just gonna cut bait and go to Hancock,
'Cause it was closest.
because it was literally geographically closest to the town, to where I was living. I ended up getting there. And coach, when you talk about a place where the talent and the aesthetics is endless, Hancock County it is an absolute gold mine. It is an absolute gold mine. And when I got there, I'm thinking I just need to bring my template from Warrenton to Hancock, and that's what I did. We went there as a small staff, good old country kids, real intimate. Hancock is basketball. Hancock is basketball, and it's basketball. But I used to look at them when they got off the bus and when they warmed up against us in Warrenton, and I'm like, how do we beat them? How can we stay on the field with them? And it's a kid that's playing now, Aiden Ball. He's a tailback for Florida, the Florida Gators right now. He's from Hancock. It's folks like that. His dad was that type specimen, 6'3", 220 pounds, in the eighth grade, can dunk, can catch, can block, can throw. It's just so many kids in Hancock. And I just applied the template and we started to win. It wasn't the same Hancock. It wasn't the same Hancock, but you Hancock is basketball. We started to win in football. We started to really win in track. I won 2 state championships. I won 12 championship regions. No, I won 6 championships, 6 runner ups, 2 state championships in track in Hancock. I mean, and it was, I'm not gonna say it was easy, but the pieces were there. You just got to put them in the right spot. And the same thing with football. We just start putting kids in the right spot, and we start to win. We start to look good, and compete against the Lincolns, and we end up winning games that historically Hancock would, kind of come on the short end. Washington Wilkes, Aquinas, Lincoln, First Presbyterian, those schools up in Macon. We started to be competitive, and that thing, and it's still going on, still going on. Different type bird we're dealing with now, but I spent some good time in Hancock, and there's some great kids, some great individuals there. I enjoyed my time there, and nothing but good stuff to say about Hancock County, even though they're the rivals. Yeah,
Well, when they paying for you to eat, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
you can put that garnet and gold on for a little
I
bit
sure
if you
will. I sure
that's right.
will.
So, after that, where did you go after Hancock Central?
After that, I went to this is my second year in Jefferson. Like I say, once they start making changes in Hancock, and I was close to getting out. And as a football coach, your teaching career is tied in line with your coaching. And being that I'm at the end of my career, I have to start thinking about retirement, and just placement, and just being in a comfortable position for the easy part. And Jefferson County end up calling me, Coach East. I kind of sent out some feelers, let me get somewhere else and see what else I can do and see where else I can go. And Coach East gave me a call and said he's young, he's new in Jefferson County. He's trying to revitalize that program and get that thing started back. Would I mind, or would I like to come down here and help him out and give him a little veteran leadership on that staff? And I just jumped at the chance.
Well, coach, if your team needs to raise money, check out Scoreboard Fundraising. In the past year, they've helped more than 1,000 teams across the Southeast run simple, effective fundraisers from popcorn to online donations. Call Mike James at 770-680-3424 or visit scoreboardfundraising.com. A lot of guys I know use them. I know Coach Ashley we had on last week. He uses Scoreboard Fundraising. They do a great job. They're all mostly old coaches. They understand what we're dealing with from big program to small program. If you have any fundraising needs, I encourage you to reach out to scoreboardfundraising.com. Again, that's Mike James at 770-3424. So let's go back and talk about being a head coach at a small rural school
Oh
because
man.
a lot of guys don't understand, like, how did you do spring? Because let's just say Warren County, because Warren and Hancock are the same.
Right.
They're same size, same kind of kids,
That's right. That's
dealing
right.
with the same kind of stuff, one red light, one
That's right.
ain't no Walmart,
Nope.
ain't
Not even
no
nowhere to
Burger
eat.
King, ain't no
Nope.
McDonald's, none of that. So how did you do spring when you were the head coach at Warren County?
A lot of times we didn't do spring, or our spring was so scattered because I was a part of the track team. I was, head girls track coach in Warrenton for a long time. Richard Arrington was the boys, and we kind of did it in conjunction. I did. We practiced, and went to the meets together, and track. We were good. We were very good in track in Warren County, and our track season extended on into the spring. So we actually had to start having spring before track, because being in that small school, having 180 kids in your school, the same kid that plays quarterback, plays point guard, runs the 100 and 200 in track, the exact same kid. And to take him out of track, which he's going to be competitive in, and make him run quarterback at spring practice and risk that injury, is just not worth it. Is not worth it. And the thing that we'll never go in and we'll never tell teams and kids that we're not going to be competitive. We're always gonna um, compete for regions and state. But being a coach at a small school, there are so many intrinsic components of you being that head coach. It's only going to be one state champion, and it's probably going to be from a school that has a lot more resources than we do. So we do have a purpose, and that purpose is to provide a vehicle for that kid to perform in front of his family and community. We put on a stage or put on a performance for basketball or track or football for the community to come and have something to do on the weekend. Little sense of community pride. It's not always about winning regions and winning state championships because there's only going to be one. Giving those kids a background or a foundation to go off and be good fathers, to be good workers, to be good Indians, and possibly be good chiefs one day. I got that from athletics in little old Warren County, and I hope that over my 27 years of coaching in these three places that I've giving kids, giving players, giving students something to look back on, something a little more intrinsic. You can't hold it in your hand. You just feel it. And just like me and you sitting here right now, if I had players to come and join this podcast right now, the stories that we could tell, the times that we've had, the lessons that we've learned, we probably could fill up. We could probably do 3 or 4 hours of communications right here.
Oh, there ain't no doubt. So
No
spring's
doubt.
just not a thing at a small school. Like, I mean, most people don't know this, or maybe they do. I don't think a lot of them do. The county's one of the smallest single A programs in the state of Georgia. 180 kids total, and you gotta guess that, let's just say, half of them are females.
Girls.
Yeah,
No,
so they're not even playing,
it was only 80 boys. It was only 88 boys at the
to
time.
try to get to come out and play all your sports and
That's
do
right.
everything else
That's
too.
right. That's
And
right.
we know it ain't for everybody.
No.
So, we play. I told you, I shared with you, we went to OTA this past summer at Putnam, and Warren County was there, and head Coach Simpson, sitting there going, "Look, man, don't laugh, but my defensive end, like, when we're on defense, our defensive end, that's him. He good-looking kid. He's big like you." So, then they go to offense. He goes, "Well, he's my quarterback too." Because we've had 3 or 4 people get hurt, or,
Yeah.
somebody's not here, or
That's
somebody,
right.
and like you said, he's gonna be the point guard, he's gonna be the
That's
quarterback, he's
right.
gonna run the 1 and 200. Well, he's probably gonna be the safety or the Mike
No
linebacker
qu
too, because
no
there is
question.
no it ain't no, "We're are you playing both ways?" It's you ain't coming off.
That's right. And those kids will it's almost like they look for it. They look to do it. I had a young player in Hancock. His name was Reginald Reynolds, 6'6", probably about 220. Could play outside linebacker, played defensive end, was a receiver, was a big receiver. He was one of the top basketball players in single A that year. He ended up going to Allen and graduating. He said, "Coach, I don't want to come off the field." So he did all special teams, offense, defense, kickoff, kick return, punt return. He's like, I literally do not want to come off the field. And he didn't. And I was, I'm going to oblige you because I need about 5 or 6 more just like that won't come off the field. You know yourself. You gotta beat some of them to get back on the field, especially in those situations. But if you got 3 or 4 like that, but we in those small schools, we build them. We build them like that, and you look at University of Georgia has some legendary running backs in their running back room. Herschel Walker came from Wrightsville. He played both ways. Garrison Hurst came from little old Lincoln County. Robert Edwards came from Sandersville, from Waco. So it's a lot of merit in this small ball. I've heard a lot of coaches call it small ball. There's a lot of great players that played small ball, but being that they're in that small community, a lot of times their aspirations, their ceiling, they don't want to go that high. I just want to come out here and play and be with my friend. And I want my mom to hold my helmet at the end of the game on Friday night. That's big. That's big. We've had kids in Hancock and Warrenton that were offered scholarships and said, "Coach, I really don't want to play. I just want to play with my friends." And to each his own. To each his own. I'm at a bigger school now, and the opportunities are a little bit more present than they were at the smaller schools. But Jefferson is not too much bigger. We're still single A. We're just Division 1. They have their own struggles, and their numbers are comparable. Numbers are comparable. I wouldn't know what to do with 100 kids. Even in Jefferson with our 50 and 60 on the field, I'm like, coach, I'm used to 30. I'm used to 30. One year in Sparta, we had 42 players. And I'm like, I could actually put two platoons on the field. Let me see if I can try it. And we actually did it. But the numbers got us. The numbers came back to get us. And
Well, one of the most awesome things I think about your career that you can share with people, because I've been telling these stories for the past 30 years and all the places I've been and all the t-shirts I got. I'm like, look, man, when I get Marleau on here, you're going to have somebody who played at the original home of the Screaming Blue Devils Stadium. And then, thank God, you got the opportunity to coach
right.
after y'all got a nice new place and
That's
got
right.
everything that everybody else had.
That's right.
And you've coached at Hancock Central where the juke joint's down there in the end of the corner when they had the town you remember that? When
Yes, I do.
their jokers would be all the way live by
Yes,
about
I
like a
do.
quarter,
Yes, I do. It
and the
was
field wasn't quite 100 yards long, and they
no,
reset the
and then it
chains,
was
and you
like that.
wasn't nowhere to dress. You better show up
No,
dressed.
that's right.
They showed up dressed, but then they built a new facility for them as well,
Very nice.
and so you got to experience so you can tell the stories better than I can because you grew up in that rivalry, playing at these places, and people look at me like I've got 4 heads. I'm like, "Guys, there's places in Middle Georgia. Washington Wilkes Field is the exact same now as it
Right.
was when you played,
Pretty much so.
your daddy played,
That's right.
his daddy." I mean, it's that place is old,
Old, old.
and they don't wanna change it.
No, no, and I don't blame them. Johnson County is another place that is old. That visitor, I tell Norton all the time, man, you ought to be shot to put us in this visitors locker room now. But it's functional, and
You can't say nothing now. That place you grew up playing at, y'all visitors locker room at the old Warren
it
County
was
place was
horrible. It was
you couldn't
the
even get
deck that
dressed in
I'm
there.
in right now is bigger than that visitors locker room. And the home locker room wasn't too much bigger than that thing right there. But that
But what
old
was
that old
crazy though, when I tell people this, I hate to cut you off, but I tell people this too. There was nothing wrong with the playing surface. The
mm-mm.
grass was well taken care
Right,
of.
right,
There was lines were straight. It wasn't like it was bootleg. It was just old. I mean,
right,
Coach Ray Lamb coached at that place back in the '60s. I
right.
mean, before desegregation, I mean that people played on that field for a long, long,
For a
long, long
long
time.
time,
And
long
you
time.
played on it. So I bet it
I
was
did.
very special to you when they built the new place.
It it was
Probably
um
bittersweet though.
it was bittersweet. I can remember a situation where it was Lee Hutto's first year, and we end up that was that year that we started off 0-4, and then so it was the first or second round of the playoffs, and we had a home game. And of course, that field is so small. It was the press box because the press box was about as big as a fit, and all coaches was literally sitting right there next to each other. It wasn't advantageous to anybody, so they actually decided to move the game to the Brickyard in Thompson. Now, I took offense. Now, of course, Lee and a lot of his staff was, it was home to them. But to me, County hasn't seen a home playoff game in a long time. And they're actually starting to build this new field over at this school. And we actually have a chance to send this field off in a proper, and I mean, we end up playing Bowden and we end up beating them pretty good, having a great game. But before that game, I got all the seniors and juniors in the locker room. And, I told them, you're it's bittersweet that we can't play at that field, but I'm glad that we're in this position, second round of the playoff against a a state of a real competitive team so that we can gauge ourselves and see how far we're gonna go. So you're gonna have to represent now. It's supposed to be a home game for us, but we going to Thompson, and I'm gonna shed tears passing Legion Field because I know we're not probably not gonna ever get back on that field. It would have been great to have gone on that field and with the performance that we put on Bowden that night, just to give it, because there are some stories on that field. You was talking about the line straight, Chris. On the home side where that scoreboard was only 97 yards. Now I can tell it now. If you had gotten to the 12-yard line and they had to stretch that chain, you was gonna be in the end zone, man, because it was only 97 yards on that side. We had to curve that end zone, that back line, so that we could fit that thing inside of that fence.
Well, Glasscock, you used to if you went out of bounds in the back of the end zone, you was in the asphalt parking lot
That's right. That's
for
right.
years.
That's
And then at
right.
Aquinas, left field and center field, I mean, I know they got a new place now. I hadn't even
Right.
seen it. I've heard it's unbelievable. They've reoriented the field.
Mhm.
But when we were coaching against each other, when I was there,
Right.
we had a temporary fence for baseball because left field and center field was about a 30-yard line of the
Right.
football
That's
field.
right. That's exactly right.
And then if you were in the press box,
That
they had
pole.
light poles right there, and there wasn't nowhere to go because, like you said, the press box was small.
That's
So they'd
right.
be up there, calling out to you, "Hey, man, what are they lined up in? I can't see
You
around the
can't see
pole."
the pole. Can't see the pole. And even on game film, if you were in there, you that pole was in the way. That pole was in the way. In Warrenton, we had to if we had a home game, we had to turn the lights on at about 5:30. And when you turned them on, you had to it was an old switch box and it was gonna spark blue sparks when you turned it on. And you had to get those lights real warm before you couldn't turn them on at dusk and hope that they had to already be hot when it got dark. We played a Athens Christian, first time we played them. And I forget who their kicker was, but if you scored on the scoreboard end and you kicked an extra point and it was good, it was going in the bushes and you wasn't going to be able to find it. So we had to let them, they when they scored, we had to go to the other end of the field to kick the extra points because during the warm-ups, that kid lost half of his kicking balls, and they weren't gonna lose a game ball back there. I mean, it was if you kicked that ball back there, it was gone. Now, we probably have some little kids that'll run back there on Monday. They might find it, and we might be able to send it back. But no, you didn't want to go. You didn't want to go back there in August and September. Not you didn't want to go back there.
And then I remember when we'd play Hancock, Coach Boland was a baseball coach, heck of a
Mhm.
baseball coach, and they
Very
were
much
always
so.
really good at
Very
baseball.
much so.
And he would be the play-by-play commentator at their old stadium, sitting on them cement blocks, and he'd be like,
Right. That's
you
right.
know, "Marleau Blount around to the right. Oh, it's a reverse," like he would be calling out the play.
It looks like a trap to me. Yeah, that
But
was
he was such a
those
good dude.
man. And that's what it was about. Those type stories. We like you said, we didn't have those great stadiums. We had to cut the grass. We had to have early practices on Thursday and start marking the field, or either bring the PE classes to the field to paint numbers and do lines and clean up the field. And those kids, boys and girls, were just they couldn't wait for those Thursday and Fridays to get out there and just be a part of what we had going on. The sense of
And JV
community.
wasn't no thing. You didn't have no
No,
JV because you
no,
barely had enough to play on Friday
yeah,
night.
yeah. I was. That was one of the issues with going to Jefferson. We had a bunch of young talent that played JV, and I'm like, Coach, he's been taking lumps from our first group varsity. We might be able to play him, but when you have a JV and you could bring that kid up the right way, that's fine. But I'm used to looking at that eighth grader and seeing exactly where can I put him next year because we only got 7 to 8 kids coming up from the eighth grade. Those sophomores, those kids playing sophomore, they got to play. So no, the only JV games that we had were we might be able to get some together during our open week so that we could actually get some 7 8 kids that don't get to play a chance to get out there and play. But if you can run, those special that kickoff team, we was gonna coffin corner kick it anyway, or either squib it. You was gonna have 6 freshmen out there.
Give somebody a break.
Give somebody a break. Give somebody a break.
Well, how
The
did y'all do
punt
summers? I mean, what was summers like? Because when you're at such a small place, you gotta get them in some kinda shape.
right. We
How did
used basketball. The month of June was pretty much set aside for basketball. So we kinda correlated with the basketball coach, and we told him, "Okay, I'm gonna get him here. You gotta keep him here." So in the mornings for the month of June, all we did was lift weights. We lift weights from 9 till 11. Somebody would come, or either they'd be a part of that summer school program, and we'll feed them lunch. Then at 12 o'clock, the basketball coach got them, and have as many basketball games as you can. Now on like that might be a Monday, Wednesday, Friday thing. On Tuesdays, we lift Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Tuesday and Thursday was all agility, and we pretty much ran the brakes off of them, but then we turned them over to basketball and they continued to run. So by the time July hits, they're in some kind of shape, and that's when we actually start to go to 7-on-sevens and fashion scrimmages and that type thing. We just like I said, we sharing players. If I got 100 players and only 20 gonna play basketball, and I got 80 to come out here and just be strictly football, that'll be great. But it doesn't work like that. Don't
Yeah, when we
work.
were coming up, first started coaching, I'm at Aquinas and Chris is at Glasscock, you were Warren, and we were all in that same region
Right.
7
Right.
at in some kind of form or fashion. You had Lincoln, Washington Wilkes, Aquinas, Warren, Glasscock, GMC. Every now and then, Johnson County would get kicked into our region. You'd have Hancock Central was in the region. You'd have Green Tolliver when it was still Green Tolliver was in the region. And it would some crap. I remember one time Social Circle was in the region
They
with us.
sure were. That's right. That's right. That's
So, I
right.
mean, it was some kinda way that you were but the core group was always gonna be Hancock, Warren, GMC, Glasscock,
Lincoln.
Aquinas, Lincoln,
Right.
Washington Wilkes. Those are
That's
like
right.
the core group,
That's right.
and you were gonna see the same kids on Friday nights during football season. You was gonna see the same youngins on Tuesdays and Fridays during basketball season.
Yep.
If they had baseball, you were gonna see them
Same
same kids
kid.
again. You're gonna see them at the track meet because everybody
Right.
played everything because they had to.
Right. And culminated, it really culminated, coach, at that state track meet, because when we went to the region, then we didn't even have sectionals back then. It was just regional. And we went, and that was that 4-day event in Albany or either Jefferson. You had the kids from Warrenton, Hancock, Lincoln, Washington, Wilkes, Oliver, whoever else was Aquinas when they did send somebody. We'd all be under the same tent. Somebody was gonna bring a tent. We were gonna put the tents beside each other. We was gonna share coolers. We was gonna share food. We was gonna share tips on the track and this and that. And even in the stands, we saved places for each other in the stand, because that was a close read. We were rivals, we played hard and we were competitive, but having that type of, and I always call them country kids, having those country kids, it was just a pleasure to coach them and coach against them. I can remember a kid from Washington Wilkes who was at the state track meet, and he and one of my kids were in the long jump, and I was doing his markings on the track along with mine. And he walk over and we'd do this and do that. And somebody was like, you helping them too? And I told him, the young man is bigger than that. It's way bigger than that. It's way bigger than what I know him. I go to the grocery store now, and he works at the Ingles in Washington Wilkes, and it's way bigger than that. And that's, even though I would love to have state championship trophies, you can't beat that feeling right there, coach. You
Well,
can't
coach,
beat
you
that.
sure have poured in the kids over the years.
Oh
I
yeah,
value your friendship more than you'll ever know. I mean, we run into each other at Jefferson County, hadn't seen each other in a good decade, and it was like the day after.
you're right. You're exactly right.
And you're the reason that kind of friendship is to me what this business is supposed to be about.
That's right.
and pouring into kids,
That's
and
right.
I just appreciate you and you coming on and sharing your story with us.
Man, it's been a absolute pleasure. It was so good to see you back then. It's crazy that as close as we all were at Augusta State, life is life in it. We all have to go and take care of our families. But those times we spent in Dr. G's room and Coach Coach
Let me
Bill
ask you
room.
this, do you ever, because this has happened to me recently, I don't know if it's a dream, but sometimes I just swear they're gonna come in and go, "Nah, y'all didn't pass exercise
Oh
phys and
man.
kine
Oh
y'all
my
didn't really
goodness.
get that degree,
Y'all
we
didn't
just
get
gave it
that.
to y'all because that Dr. G was something serious
There
now.
was
He
there's
thought we were
something
all
that
going to medical school.
oh my goodness, that cat right there, boy.
He kept us in school an extra year at least.
At least, at least he was a I don't know what he was. I don't
He
know
was
what he
different.
was. Oh, he was different, but
But
I get
hey,
the experience now.
and how we got through it was teamwork.
It really was teamwork.
We got together and we got that
Yeah,
because he wouldn't change none of the
no,
tests.
no, not at
So
all.
we
We
finally got a good enough test bank together.
that's right, and
We
we
figured
we would we would have to fool him to take a test when we were ready for it, and
it.
but those are some great times at Augusta State, man. I wouldn't trade them for the world.
Well, I'm glad we met, and I'm so glad we remain friends over
Yes,
years, and
sir.
I'm so
Yes,
glad you
sir.
came on and shared your
Man, my
coaching
pleasure.
journey with us.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Anytime. I'd do it again.
Thanks, coach.
No problem. Good to see you.